Hello there and welcome. Now today in this video I'm going to watch and react to 4 different candidates or students as they give their answers to IELTS Speaking Part 2 questions. And I think this will help you understand not only how the examiner thinks, but how IELTS Speaking is evaluated. And also I hope you can see how you need to improve as well in the future. Let's get straight into it. Okay, so in today's video, as I watch these 4 candidates, I will tell you what is good about their answers and maybe not so good and where they need to improve. Of course, I'll be commenting on their fluency, lexical resource, vocabulary, grammar and pronunciation, all of the 4 skills. We've got candidates at level band 5, 6, 7 and 8. And so hopefully you can see what you need to do to get up to a band 7 or 8. Now, one of my recommendations to all students as you're starting to prepare for IELTS is to do a mock test, because you really need to know where you are, to understand where your strengths are, your weaknesses are, and where you should focus, right? Now, there's a lot of ways of doing this. I've looked at one in particular that I really like, and it's done by an organisation called takeielts.net, and they offer mock tests which cover the 4 skills, right? Listening, reading, writing and speaking. They are very similar in standard and quality to the original tests. They have IELTS examiners who do the marking and evaluation, and what's really good is you get feedback. So you don't only know what your level is, they tell you what you did well, what you did badly, and what to improve, and some suggestions on how you can do it. It's really useful, right? So I would suggest that for most students. I think it's really good to know where you are. They do packages of just 1 or 3 or 5. Anyway, there's a link below. They've given us a 10% discount. So they've given you a 10% discount. I'm not doing it. If you just use the code Keith10, Keith10, you get a 10% discount. Check it out. If it's right for you, go for it. Now let's get into our 4 candidates. And here's the first one. So this was a band 5 candidate who was asked to talk about an interest or hobby you enjoy. Let's see how she does.
Can you start speaking now, please?
Okay. My interest or hobby that I enjoy is shopping and picnics to spend time with my family or friends, or especially I want to do volunteers for shopping. I think when I feel stressed out,
the examiner's like, what are you talking about? There's a bit of confusion, right? She's talking about a hobby. She's talking about shopping, picnics, and volunteer. So she's talking about lots of different hobbies. Much better, I would say, to just choose one. The first thing I notice here is her pronunciation. She is following a syllable timed style rather than stress timed. So she's saying, you know, I go to the shopping, stress on each syllable. English is not like that. English is a stress timed language. So we go, I go to shopping. No, I go shopping. I like to go shopping. D. The stress falls at the same time interval, not at the syllable interval. It's a big problem for many Asian languages in particular that are syllable timed, and it's very noticeable with this candidate. Also, her S and sh sounds, a sopping, are a bit confusing. But let's see how she goes on.
I can shopping. I can relax to buy a new clothes for me in the special days and in picnic. I think picnic and travel. I think I can.
The examiner's getting more comfortable now. I understand, but then she goes and throws in travel, picnic and travel. She's jumping all over the place, right? So she's showing us grammar-wise, I can shopping, I can do this, I can do that. It's a bit repetitive and simple present tense. Let's see.
Widen my knowledge as well as I can make more friends from many countries, and especially if I travel with my friend or my family, I can spend time to understand them. For me, the more important.
So you can see there's a bit of repetition of the I can do this structure. So her grammar seems to be quite at that band 5 level, very, very simple structures. And there is hesitation as she's looking for the right word. I would say noticeable hesitation. I think for a band 6, you need, a band 6 is willing to speak at length. And she really can't. I mean, she's not bad. She may push up in part 3, but she's lacking a little bit. But I think her grammar is a weak point and pronunciation as well.
Is do volunteer because I love I love the people, so I want to spend time to help them to overcome or try to get over the problem. So I often before when I live in Vietnam, I often go to the church and or some association, and I often ask my friend to contribute and give a hand to help the poor people or the old people, because I think the old people also
So vocabulary is not too bad, right? She says to overcome the problem, get over the problem, get over. Association, give a hand. She is able to talk about this topic without too much difficulty. But again, her grammar is noticeable. She's not using the past tense. When I live in Vietnam, he asked or I ask him. So she's staying in the present simple tense. Let's carry on.
I'm my grandparents, so I want to take good care for them. Yeah. And in the future, I also want to.
So you notice the examiner goes quiet and he's waiting for her to carry on because she's only been speaking 1 minute 30. And so she does this nice trick, right? Oh, and in the future, I will, and show off the future tense. Nice, great.
I build the big house, and maybe I will take the good care for our family or the children, and I think they will have a better life.
So she is using the future will, but it's limited. And again, children's instead of children. It's making me feel she's a band 5, definitely for grammar, probably for vocabulary. And she's at the end, but here she's only been speaking, a bit under 2 minutes. So now the examiner will ask a follow-up question.
I hope that.
Thank you. Do you think you'll always be interested in this?
Yeah, I think that when I engage with the do volunteer, especially, I feel straight out is disappear, and I enjoy with it. Yeah.
Thank you. May I have the booklet and the...
And that's the end. The stress out disappear. The stress disappears. It's unfortunate, but that present simple, the dropping of the S, is so common. It's the most common mistake I see and hear as well. And it brings down her grammar score. So undoubtedly, her grammar is a 5. Pronunciation, she is struggling with quite a few things that I've mentioned. Vocabulary, she may be moving up to a 6, but I think fluency, she's not there yet. So overall, she's a 5, but she's very jolly, right? And the examiner was very... confused at first, but then got clarity. Great. Let's move on. Okay, the next candidate got a band 6, and he is from Taiwan. Let's see how he does.
I'm now going to give you 1 to 2 minutes to speak, and you don't have to worry about the time. You just keep on speaking, and I will let you know when the time is up. Okay. Thanks.
And his question, by the way, is to describe someone you know who has started a business.
All right. The person I would like to talk about is my younger brother. He works at the Kaohsiung Harbor in a small company to do the imports, outports, and that kind of stuff.
Okay, interesting. Imports and outports, no exports. Bit of a small confusion, but one of the first things I notice, his pronunciation is very clear. It's very good. He has a nice intonation. He's got a good sense of stress and rhythm. He's using weak forms to do instead of to do. So that, I think his pronunciation is very clear, is very good, which is a strength for him. And stuff like that. He's using some nice natural language and stuff like that. Let's carry on.
But beside of his current job, he has a side job. He sells he sells things in the traditional market in the weekends. The reason why he would like to
he has a side job, so this is the business he's set up. So a side job, nice vocabulary, right? The other thing that strikes me very quickly is his fluency. He is struggling, right? Now, a band 6 should be, right, willing to speak at length, although you may lose coherence at times because of hesitation. There is quite a lot of hesitation. I think this is his weakness. He seems to be a bit nervous. But let's see if he can warm up and get better.
To have a side job is because he wants to gather more funds to make some investments, such as the stocks, and maybe in the future, maybe some bonds.
So he's very nervous, right? Vocabulary-wise, he's not bad, right? He's got the side job. He wants to gather some funds, make investments, stocks and bonds. So, he can speak in depth about finance and this topic of business so far. Some nice language and collocation.
Yeah. And sometimes he will chat with me about the interesting things that happen during the side jobs, that being a vendor in the traditional market. And
he is able to build some good sentences, right? Sometimes he will chat. So the use of will for a present habit, the use of the gerund later, and he's building clauses to make longer grammatical sentences. So his grammar could well be a 6, right? He's using a mix of simple and complex structures, although there may be frequent mistakes. There are 1 or 2, right?
Sometimes I would think that maybe I could do similar things that he's doing it right now to making myself more making my current life more comfortable. That with more available amount of money.
I really think it's nerves. I do. But it's the reality. His fluency is falling down, isn't it? He's not warming up. He's struggling to speak at length, and there's a loss of coherence quite regularly. He could almost be a 5 on fluency. But I do like his grammar so far. He is using gerunds quite effectively. He has shown some different tenses and very nice pronunciation. So I can see why he's getting the 6 on pron, grammar, and probably vocabulary, but we'd have to explore that in future topics. Let's see how he finishes up.
In my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
So he's not finished 2 minutes. The examiner's going to give him a kind of a final chance. Let's give him one extra question and see how he reacts.
Now, you mentioned that sometimes you think that it's an opportunity that you might like to do some of the same kind of work that he does.
Mm-hmm.
Could you give me a few more details about why you think that might be a good idea? You said to make your life more comfortable. Can you give me a few more details about that?
His examiner talks so much, with all respect. He's talking too much and probably confusing the candidate more than necessary.
Can you give me a few more details?
Because for example, the house rent in Taipei City is getting higher. So if I earn more money, I have more. I can have more options to choose.
Yep. Okay, so.
Okay, so he's really struggling a bit for some words, but he gets the words out, right? He knows the words, so the weakness is fluency rather than vocabulary. And that's it. And then the examiner, I think, wants to make him feel better, so he now summarizes what he said.
This way you could earn some more money and then maybe move to a different apartment or one with more services. Okay, thank you.
In the exam, we don't do that. We don't try and make you feel better. We're ruthless. Yes. Don't care how you feel. It's your score. I suspect here he's a student in the school, so they want to make him feel better. Right. Interesting. So I think that's probably a 5, 6, or 7 with pronunciation. Pronunciation may not be a 7 because he hasn't got enough fluency to show pronunciation over longer sentences. So, but I can see him getting a 6 so far. Great, let's move on. Right, let's move on now to the Band 7 candidate. And see how she does. She was given the question to describe a special gift that you gave somebody. Let's see how she does.
Stop you. I'll tell you when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
Okay. The special gift actually I gave to my mother, and it was a necklace in the Mother Day. And actually, I've been to different shops to search for what am I going to give my mother, because giving her anything is just, you feel it. It's very simple.
Well, the first thing I notice is her pronunciation is great. She has a really good sense of word stress, of rhythm, a really strong sense of the stress-timed nature of English, the D, 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 D. It's great. She's using weak forms, contractions like it was. She says, 'twas a necklace. It's kind of very quaint, old-fashioned English, but really nice trick, actually. If you can say it was and say 'twas, or 'twas, because it's unstressed. 'Twas a necklace. Really nice. Makes her sound very natural. So I notice the pronunciation is good. She's using some very complex grammar, right? I've been to different shops. Although there are small mistakes on vocabulary, Mother Day, I think, instead of Mother's Day. First impressions are great pronunciation and seems to be able to keep going.
But I looked for different shops, and I then decided to take a very lovely necklace, and it wasn't that much expensive because I was I had the money for it. So
it wasn't that much expensive. It wasn't that expensive, it should be. So there are some mistakes on her grammar. At a Band 7, you want to be using a range of complex structures, but frequent error-free sentences. She's making a few mistakes on grammar, and I would be watching the rest all the way through for the rest. A fluency is quite good, right? She is by and large able to keep going. Some hesitations over longer phrases. Let's carry on.
I asked the salesman to wrap it for me in a very colored papers, and I just tried to put the red tie in it.
She's almost there. So wrap it is nice, but wrap it up would be better. And she tries to put the tie, the bow, it should be. So she's almost got the right words. So she's got a bit of flexibility. And at a Band 7, you can have some inappropriate choices. Some.
And then I hide it in my... I didn't tell her about it till the party, because we usually make a party for my mother in the Mother Day, so I didn't tell her about it till
So here her fluency is quite good, right? I didn't tell her about it. Again, there are some small lapses in grammar that I'm unsure about, but fluency is great, and she's maintaining that nice, clear pronunciation all the way through.
At the party, and when I gave it to her, she was really happy very much, and she was almost in tears because she really liked.
There you go, almost in tears. There's a nice little flashlight for the examiner. Nice bit of vocabulary there to show that she can be a bit more flexible. Let's carry on.
And she told me, no matter how simple it is, since you think about giving me anything, so that's really great. So I was really happy for really giving her this present, and she's wearing it every time when she goes out. Or
she's wearing it whenever she goes out. Would be better she wears it whenever she goes out, and she tells her friends about it. Good fluency.
And she always told her friends about it. Look what she brought, what my daughter brought to me in the Mother Day. So I really was proud and happy that she's really
I think she's able to speak without effort, right? And over longer phrases. So her fluency is a 7. I don't think she's showing off enough vocabulary really for a 7, but that may push up later. And I'm worried about her grammar, whether she can, she would need fewer errors in the remaining part of the test. But I think flying colours on a pronunciation. And now we come to the end of the 2 minutes. And she realises that she hasn't spoken enough.
Yeah. And so... every time I see it,
and this is where you think, what am I going to say now?
Really,
I don't know what to say.
She's really proud of it, and
do you enjoy giving gifts?
Yes.
Saved by the bell. So the examiner comes in to ask a question, to focus her and give her this last opportunity to speak.
I really enjoy. I like even to take gifts, but I enjoy giving gifts to my friends or to the members of my family, because it shows that you are thinking of them and you really care for them.
Thank you.
Great. And that was a nice answer, right? Some really good stress. It shows that you're thinking of them. And so she finishes up with a nice closing sentence there. There was a bit of hesitation, but I think it was more for ideas rather than language. So that's okay. And yes, I thought that was a nice finish, a nice close. So she would probably here, up to now, be 7 on fluency, maybe a 7 on vocabulary. I'm not sure about grammar. I'm worried about those mistakes. So 6 to 7, and pronunciation probably a 7, potentially an 8. Great. Well done. So we're moving now on to this next candidate. She is a band 8, and her part 2 question actually is describe the type of clothing that you like to wear. Let's see how she does.
Okay. The type of clothing that I like to wear is mostly generally casual, but I wear different types of clothes on different occasions, like everyone else, I suppose. So, regardless of the weather, in India we have a lot of festivals. So,
well, apart from the beautiful glasses, the other things I notice are her fluency. She's able to keep going, speaking quite fluently without any effort over long phrases as well. But I also notice her pronunciation, right? She's got this lovely sense of stress, this time stress feeling for English, right? The type of clothing that I like to wear is mostly casual. The type of clothing that I like to wear, right? That dum-da-dum-da-dum. It's not the type of clothing that I like to wear. It's not syllable based. It's time stressed. Lovely stress. And she's also chunking quite a lot, right? Notice regardless of the weather. Regardless of the weather. She doesn't say 4 words. She says 1 sound. Regardless of the weather. And that means she's not translating. She's thinking in English. It improves her fluency because she's thinking in chunks, not words. And everything's connected, regardless of the weather. And it's very natural, helps on all aspects, fluency and pronunciation. So that's the first thing I notice. Very impressive.
Usually I do like to wear casual clothes, but like just a jeans and a t-shirt. But like on occasions, on festive occasions, I wear like traditional Indian clothes, and I get them specifically made because they like you can't really buy like traditional Indian clothes in the malls and all.
Right. So she's got quite a reasonable range of language there coming up. She talks about the clothes, getting them specifically made. Again, that lovely stress, getting them specifically made. Getting something done is a nice construction. Getting something specifically made, like custom made or tailor made. So some nice vocabulary. She's talking about clothes and clothing, and she's able to do it very naturally. And she has these very natural fillers, sometimes at the beginning, but at the end as well. Just there, she said, da-da-da, and all. Right, I like these clothes, and all. And all is a bit like, and that, and something like that. It doesn't really mean anything. We just add it at the end of phrases sometimes, like I suppose, and all. It does mean and that. And she does it quite a bit through this test, but it does give a feeling of naturalness and fluidity that comes out here.
But I do get them made, tailor-made for me. And
Tailor-made.
Because then you can choose your own style, your designs, or a lot of like stuff like that. So yeah. When you go to a temple, I wear like pure simple clothes because that is the tradition.
So I notice a slight ven and ver instead of when and where. She's doing the v sound. So there's a very slight pronunciation thing there. Some people claim that's an accent thing. I think it's a phoneme problem. I think it is something to change, not ven, because ven is a different word, V-E-N-N. So there is confusion there. But it's a very small thing on pronunciation. Also, I noticed here she's able to keep going over a long sentence, and then she stops. She hesitates or stops for content. So think of the idea, and then she carries on, and then she stops, thinks of the idea, and carries on. So that hesitation, stopping, is absolutely fine, even at a Band 8 level, right? But it's stopping to think of ideas, not to think of the words, and that's the difference.
So that makes me feel like really peaceful and calm because most of the time you wear like simple clothing when you go to a temple. So it makes me feel calm.
With vocabulary, there is a little bit of repetition, right? Clothing, simple, calm, even some of the connectors, but, so yeah. There's a little bit of repetition. I think she needs to show off quite a wider range for specific meaning, precise meaning for the Band 8 vocabulary. But let's see if she does that.
When I wear those clothes and during festivals, when I wear like those traditional Indian clothes, it makes me happy because it's like a festival I've been celebrating since I was a kid. So during Diwali and Holi and all.
And holy and all. No, she's got that on the end as well. If you listen carefully to the grammar, actually, as well as a wide range of tenses, she's using present perfect, I've been celebrating, past tense, conditionals very, very well. She's building up sentences with clauses. And if you think of clauses, kind of subject, object, subject, verb, object, as building blocks, and you build up your sentences with 2 or 3 or 4 clauses, that is complex grammar. Okay, so here she says, when I wear special Indian clothes, it makes me happy because it's a festival I have been celebrating since I was a kid. Clause, 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 like 4 or 5 clauses together. That is wonderful, complex grammar, as well as the different tenses she's using. So, and I don't notice many mistakes on grammar. So she's up there at the 8 level for sure on grammar.
Yes, in Holi, I wear like everyone wears white clothes because they throw colors on you. So
Oh dear. No sooner have I spoken. Everybody wears a white cloth. White cloth? No, cloth is not countable, right? Where everybody wears white clothing or white clothes. One mistake.
So you get like you go out with a white cloth, and then when you come back, it's like all colorful. So different clothes for different occasions, I suppose. Here, I have been wearing a lot of warm clothes.
Right, here I have been wearing present perfect continuous great tense. So despite the vocabulary, which I'm a bit nervous about because there's quite a bit of repetition, different clothes, different folks. She said that a couple of times. But I think definitely her fluency is great. She's able to keep going quite fluently at a band 8 level. Pronunciation is also up at the 8, the wide range of features. Word stress, sentence stress, stress timing, connected speech, weak forms, they're all there. Okay.
And that makes me feel really, really warm. Yeah. And I buy clothes from different stores, I suppose, depending on what kind of clothes I want. And oh my God.
And now she's wondering, what more do I need to say? This is that horrible moment, right, towards the end of part 2, where you really don't know what to say. It's often best to just shut up or say, and that's it. And then let the examiner come in and ask you a question, right? Because that'll give you a new focus. Much better than going, oh, and yes, and close, and start hesitating and bringing your fluency score down. Don't do that. Just shut up.
So, yeah, and when I go for an interview, I mostly dress in formals. So that makes me feel very confident and that I'm prepared.
Excellent. Good. Okay, so I'll take...
Okay, so she comes up with the idea to talk about the interview. I dress in formals. Nice. I mean, that's a nice little expression. And then Chris here closes up, very professional, like a teacher and examiner in this sense. Great. So here, very interesting. I think clearly for me, her fluency was at a band 8 level. She speaks fluently with occasional repetition or self-correction, right? Even occasional repetition, self-correction. Any hesitation is content related. That's a band 8. Her vocabulary, though, I'm not convinced it's at the 8 level on this part 2. I think it's more like a 7. I don't think she's showing that precision and wide range quite for a band 8 on vocabulary. But remember, she may, in part 3, move that up to get her band 8. As far as grammar goes, she's definitely there. Wide range of structures, not only tense, but structure. And pronunciation as well, for sure. She's up there at the 8 level. So well done, the nice lady with the lovely red glasses. Great, so that's it. So listen, I hope this has helped you see the difference between a band 5, 6, 7 and 8 and what you need to do to move up to the higher level. I think it's really useful to understand how IELTS speaking is evaluated and to know where you are. So listen, as I mentioned earlier, it might be a good idea for you to do a full mock test. Check out takeielts.net. I think they're really good. They're professional, give a good service. And if it's the right thing for you, go for it. Find out your strengths and your weaknesses so you know where you are. That's it from me today. It's been a pleasure, as always, to be here with you. Stay safe, stay positive, keep studying. Can't wait to see you soon. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.